Hello, everyone. How beautiful it is to have this very, very significant call. It's feeling very, very significant in my heart and in my soul. And yeah, just loving the fact that you're here with us. And Coral Rose is just a person that is so dear to my heart. And what I know is that there are souls who are forever connected. There are souls that somehow or another find each other. And I think that's happened with Coral and I. I also see Ross on the line and hi Ross. And I think that's happened with Ross and I. Actually, Garth, it's very fascinating how you came in to my awareness through humanities team. These intersections in time, for me, have cosmic significance. And let's take a moment to do the invocation that I love to do. Most of it, with a few word changes here and there, was written by Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity. I am now in the presence of pure being. I am immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, of love, and of wisdom. I acknowledge your presence and your power, O beloved Spirit. Now erase our human limitations, dissolve them, and from the pure substance of love, bring into our awareness, our life, our world, the law, the essence of creation, according to your perfect plan. And so it is. And we simply ask that the words that are spoken on this call, the people that raise their hands, will be guided and directed by the Holy Spirit. And that what they speak will be words spoken by the Holy Spirit through them, as them. I know that's the way it works for me in my life. And when you open to it for you in your life, always already present, never lacking the light, constantly yearning, absolutely yearning to shine in you and through you and radiate as you in the world. And so I want to introduce my beloved friend, Coral Rose. And Coral, we've known each other since you told me it was 2009. It seems like longer than that. So I think maybe it was a soul memory that drew you to Unity of Tustin.
Mhm.
That moment in time, you had a vibrational field that resonated with what was happening there. And what a gift, what a gift. And we'll be talking more about that. But we're going to use the format that we've used in all of these calls. I've fallen in love with this format actually, because we look at the four stages of your life: the past, the present, and the future not as separate, not as um, uh, one different from the other, but as one moment in time. So we shift from time into timelessness and we bring them together, heaven and earth, the all that is. It's a vision and it's also an actuality. It is the real essence of the all that is. And so today happens to be right in the middle of Hanukkah. And I'm hoping that Laurel, when we have time for sharing, you will be willing to come online. I know you don't show up except through your voice, letting the Holy Spirit speak through you. I'm looking forward to that in the sharing time in the last 30 minutes. And I got an email from my beloved friend and also a co-teacher during Moments of Time at Unity in Tustin. And she responded to an email I sent to her about an article that was in a Unity magazine written by someone that had been to Unity of Tustin multiple times. And she thanked me for sending it. And she said, I remember that article, The Mysteries of the Hebrew Alphabet. It was so special. And then she told me about the date of this call, reminded me that the date of this call was right in the middle of Hanukkah. How beautiful that is, right in the middle of Hanukkah. And she said, it is so sacred to sit and to gaze upon the lights. In drawing down the hidden light on Hanukkah, we sit with the candles and listen to the lights deeply. The lights have a story to tell us. And then she shared a quote from the Talmud. And it was about the first day when Adam saw through from one end of the world to the other. And now for 36 hours, Adam saw this light, 36 hours until it was hidden. And then in an excerpt, she quotes this, and I love this quote from What's Light Got to Do with It. In every generation, there are 36 elevated souls present who sustain, nurture, and guard this light. They're concealed, they're unassuming, and virtually unknown. These 36 righteous souls are sparks of that hidden light. Through their refined consciousness, the light of Torah permeates the world. And of course, many of the teachings of the Jewish Torah are also in the Old Testament of the Bible, but the Torah goes beyond what even is in the Old Testament. And then it continues during Hanukkah's 8 days, our world is luminous with this glorious light. These lights are holy. We may only gaze upon them. For though our perception may be blurred, we are essentially masters of vision. Indeed, the Hanukkah lights can be placed as a beacon to all who pass by, and others can be illuminated with truth. We're right in the middle of it. Last night on at sunset, and Laurel and I have been lighting these candles together, even though we're hundreds of miles apart, and lighting them in our own time zones at sunset. And I tried to take a picture. It didn't work too well, but this was last night, and the lighting of the Hanukkah lights, and you can see the blazing sun, and you can see the Christmas tree in the back. One of the things I love is bringing all of the paths together, dissolving the boundaries between the paths, and letting all of them represent the sacred of the all that is. And so, Carl, let us jump into your life. And in the email, we included 8 pictures. That's sort of a holy number that I really love. I used to draw the symbol 8 and say as above, as below, as above. And I would move my arm up and down and talk about our being able to move from the heavenly realm into the earthly realm and be a bridge between the two realms. And I see that in you, Laurel. I mean, well, I do in Laurel also, but I see that in you, Coral. And it's so significant to me, so beautiful to me that we have shared significant parts of this lifetime together. And most recently, when Brad Laughlin was here, you were here also. So let's talk about you were born in 1955 and
Hmm.
under the sign of Virgo, and you have a lot of Virgo within you.
A lot of
And
Virgo.
of bringing in the awareness of astrology. It's becoming something I pay attention to. It only happened for me since the pandemic. I always thought it was just entertainment until then. And now I realize it's part of the cosmic light that spirit brings and organizes and arranges and transits moments in time. And so, Carl, the first picture you sent me
Mhm.
was actually a picture of your parents. But
Yes.
your lineage actually goes back a little bit beyond them. And you
Hmm.
mentioned love letters. So I want you to
Hmm.
talk about your lineage a little bit
Okay.
and talk about the love letters.
Okay. Well, Marge, first, I just want to give you a deep bow of love and gratitude for all the years of wisdom and guidance and love and being with you most recently, and Brad and Ed in Kansas City was just so heart opening and such a lovely visit. And I can't wait to go back for Holy Week.
Yes.
So, and I did want to bring in real quick the Sunday when I woke up, I received an email from Richard Rudd's Gene Keys, and it was Gene Key 11, which is my first Gene Key, and it's the light of Eden. It's the Gene Key light. And I sent it to you, and just reading what he wrote is that through this week, we're in this portal from 1212 to 1221, which is the cosmic womb, where light's being birthed through the darkness. And what he wrote was this week we're exploring Gene Key 11. Behind all form, there is light. In the coming days, we invite you to bring your attention to the inner light within your soul. Have you been taking time to listen to the quiet wisdom of this inner light? So I just wanted to segue off of what Laurel had written to you and what you just created here. So thank you. Um, Thank you for allowing that. So my mom and dad, so that picture in that convertible, I often put it up on Facebook, and there's such joy and love in that photo. And that convertible my dad bought to impress my mother. By the way, when he came home from Korea, they actually met on, he was on leave before he was deployed to Korea in about 1952, let's say early 52. They met at a party in Central Valley, California, and my dad was there with actually a friend of my mom's, a woman. And my mom had her eye on him. And at some point after my dad deployed, she wanted to break up with my dad, the other woman. So my mom wrote my dad, who was then in Korea, and they began a friendship of love, and created this beautiful space of love through love letters. And I was not allowed to read them till they both had passed through the veils. And it was such an amazing experience. I put them all in order, read them. Uh, you know, my mom sent hers, and my dad responded. Just a beautiful unfolding of this love story, and just my most precious. I, Not being attached to anything material, those letters are really precious, and just love them. Um, so my both my parents were raised Catholic, and my mom was first generation California. I was born in California and raised in California. Live in Fayetteville, Arkansas now. And her parents, my maternal grandparents, immigrated from Portugal to the U.S. My dad is second generation born in the Hawaiian Islands, and his parents coming from the Azores through the Hawaiian Islands. At one time, there were four generations of the family living in the Hawaiian Islands, and specifically Kauai. Most recently, as I learn and tune into different frequencies that are out there, I've come to learn recently that the Azores, they say, could have been where Atlantis was. And some of those souls went from Atlantis to Lemuria. They actually have Kauai pegged as Lemuria. So I found that so interesting just in the last 6 months since I learned that. My spirituality, I believe this is where the East, and this is only through your guidance and your soul's DNA and the soul's codes, that over the years with you, Marj, and this just came into my awareness. This is really where it's probably pre-birth, but where my birth, where East meets West. My grandmother, born in Portugal, very devout Catholic. My grandmother, born in Hawaii on Kauai, raised Catholic, but very influenced by Eastern Buddhism, Zen, while she was over there. And when they moved to California, my grandmother must have been 35 or so. My dad's father passed away, my grandfather. They moved to California in the 30s. And she may have been involved in New Thought before that, Marj. I don't know. But I do know that she was very involved with early New Thought when she moved to California. Um, and I really believe, and this awareness just came in, that it's really not only pre-birth, probably right here is where it all came together, is the imprint on me of that oneness, of my yearning to learn more and understand about the one God. So I would say that's really um, with that photo. I don't know, Marge, if you have any questions about that, but that was really. where I believe, the union of both my parents coming together. And, you mentioned I'm a Virgo, Sun, Moon, Venus, and Mars in Virgo. So men are from Mars, women are from Venus. So it's interesting. Those four are in Virgo. So,
And so this picture is a
mm,
picture of you when you're very young, maybe a year and a half, 2 years old. And what was the first words that you spoke, and what were you as inclined to at that age?
well, my first word from my baby book was dada. I believe Mama was right behind it. However, interestingly enough, and my dad reminded me this often over the years, one of my first words was googie, which meant dig. I wanted to dig in the earth. And that photo you showed, there's another one from that collection of me holding the digger. And my mother actually wrote the word on there. And that's my mother and I in our backyard. And my dad being from Hawaii and my grandmother being born there, there's a lot of that culture ingrained in our family. And in my awareness, I came in with what's called in the Hawaiian language, aloha aina. That's love of the land. Not only is Virgo an earth sign, but I came in with this aloha aina, just that deep connection, that earth anchor, and just really more aligned to everything in nature. And it's interesting how I've always been drawn to that. I now live surrounded by nature in Northwest Arkansas. And Northwest Arkansas is the crystal capital of the world, not Northwest, but Southwest. And I find that also connection with Lemuria in the crystalline um,
So if
there.
we can begin to think of ourselves and recognize ourselves as vibrations of light, like the
Hmm.
rainbow, vibrations of light. And we can begin to understand that we are so much more than bodies. We're so
Hmm.
much more than what our minds make up and tell stories about in this lifetime that relate to this lifetime. And we come in and bring the energy fields, the vibrational fields of our ancestors into oneness as we embody it ourselves, and then as we begin to take it out into the world in ways that we often have no awareness of. It's unconscious. And this lifetime may be about raising this awareness from the unconscious into the conscious, into from the realms of duality where we put everything into separates and look at something as outside of ourselves, to understanding that it's all one, that within us is the one being, the one essence that is ultimately the essence of all of the world. And maybe we are connected in some way to those generations of souls that are among those 36 vibrational fields that started from the beginning. In the beginning,
Yeah.
let there be light.
Yes, yes, yes. And March, that aloha aina just weaves throughout um, my journey, my path, as we get later on in the call.
Well,
And before the next photo, that picture I believe was about 50, you're right, 15, 18 months. It's written on the back of the one I can't find. But in the next year or so, my mother actually went to work, and which was, back in that time, everyone stayed home, right? My mother went to work. And I then my brother wasn't born till I was 5. So I went to my grandmother's house. My grandmother, the one born in Hawaii, and she was the one who watched me during this time period. Well, first of all, let me say she was a psychic, a medium, and energy healer. And during this period of time, there were, and I've recalled transmissions and teaching me about crystals. And so that became also something in this pre 7 year old time period that I see weaving these sort of glimmers of light throughout this lifetime.
That is so beautiful. And this is actually another picture that for me was an example of the yearning. And this is
Mhm.
your first Holy Communion. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Marge, this age of 7, which I know you quote often since I've known you, this 7 year old, this was a pivotal point, imprinting in my life, just real pivotal. I was at this age, I wanted to be a nun. And I realized this through our Called by Love intensives back at Unity of Tustin. I was called by God. I wanted to be a nun. I loved praying. Everything was in Latin. It was so beautiful. The incense, loved the incense, the lights, the candles. Um, but I was told by my parents that I couldn't be a nun because I would have to marry God. I said, I'm okay. I would love to marry God. I would love to pray all day. They, I think they just looked at me. I think they always sort of looked at me like, like they
Like
didn't
you were
know
otherworldly.
where'd I come from, right? So, and then I began to see that through, your wisdom, that union with the divine that I so craved. You don't have to be a nun to have it, obviously, or to experience that. But that was something really profound that I'll always remember. That picture is still the original picture is in my bedroom, and above it I have my daughter's first communion picture above it, and I have that picture still, and it has crystals around it. So, and this is also the age where my mother taught me exercises from India, again, born in Southern California. India yoga made its way from India to Southern California in the early 40s. Indra Devi, a student of Krishnamacharya, the only woman, um, started a yoga studio there. Did my mother attend it? I'm not sure. She's no longer with us for me to ask. But I saw her in the front room one day doing, I guess, maybe stretching. I didn't know what it was, I'd never seen it. I just wanted to be with her, and I asked her what she was doing, and she said, exercises from India. And I said, where's India? Is that near China? And she said, well, sort of. So that's where I started these very, we call them asana now, they were poses. So that's where that came in. Um, and this is also where, and I just realized this morning, as I've always, about this age, this frequency, this sense of taste, and being able to taste, let's say, chemicals in food and water, and that awareness came in. And this morning, Marge, I realized Silent Spring. I think Rachel Carlson wrote that in 1962. That's when I was 7. Now, I had no awareness of that as a 7 year old, but this was in the global consciousness. President Kennedy even read it, and he commissioned, and I've known this over the years, and again, it just came back this morning, commissioned his team to look into what she was saying. People thought she was crazy in this pivotal book, I would believe everyone would say. And so I actually got the book out. I knew it was 1962, and I got it out this morning. And sure enough, so that segues into that Aloha Aina, this whole wonderful weaving together. And this is also the age at my grandmother's house where I first read the Daily Word.
Amazing. Very
And
profound imprints.
I loved the Daily Word. I asked my grandmother about it. She told me it was from the church she was attending. And I asked her if I could go to church with her. She said, ask your parents. So I asked my mom and dad when they picked me up, can I go to church with grandma? They said no. She goes to a different church than we do. So I was being raised Catholic. And I was puzzled. I couldn't wrap around, and I asked my parents, but isn't it all the same God? And I don't remember the response, but whatever it is did not make sense to me. So, because to me, what I had just read in the Daily Word was God. So, how could it be different? So, yeah, very, very, yeah, profound. And that was at the age of 7, which I still see that as that first spark that came in just to start to light the flame. So,
So, Charles Fillmore, the co founder of Unity,
mhm,
said that our human life evolves through cycles of 7 years. And so
mhm,
it would have been from 0 to 7 during that time. And that first spark, it begins to
mhm,
appear and acknowledge, and you return the acknowledgement. And then you went on into um, the next your teenage years, and then on into your early adult years.
mhm,
So in the stages model that I use, or the 4 acts model, it's not it's the stages model, but the 4 acts, 0 to 25. Now that is actually a time frame I thought I made up until I found out in Googling uh, something that relates to the speaker we're having next month. I found out that there's a place in India that had made up that same time frame, 25 years, 25, 25, 25. So in your first 25 years, you married and your daughters were born. And
mhm.
this is a picture of you with your 2 daughters. And
Yes, yes, there
um,
I am in the middle, and I have one daughter that lives in California, one that lives here in Arkansas. And they're such a blessing. I was married very young. You're right, within that time period. I had my first daughter at 18, second one at 21. My first husband was Southern Baptist, by the way. My second husband, Jewish. So by this point in my life, I was just really relishing in God, was coming at me from all these different perspectives and levels. Um, but
you were integrating the fundamentalist level with the Southern Baptist, you
yes,
were sleeping with it,
exactly.
giving birth with it, and
Mm,
also in your second marriage, which was in the second act of your life, you
mhm.
were doing the same thing with your Jewish energy. And
Exactly, exactly,
it,
exactly. And
it's
uh,
so fun to recognize, oh my God.
yeah, no, it definitely is. And my daughter, when she was born, this is about the time also. So it must have been about 1920. It's before my second daughter was born. And my daughter's names are, my oldest is Jennifer, the youngest Amy. And so proud of them. But it was during this first time, this first couple years of our life, where we lived in an apartment, my first husband and I had upstairs neighbor that they were quite noisy, but they were interesting people. And they would always share things with me. And because I wasn't working, I was staying home with my daughter. And this is where I was introduced to Ram Dass and Be Here Now. And they lent me a copy of this, and I thought, wow, I love this. And in addition, they had told me to read Autobiography of a Yogi. It
Well,
was
it's
probably another
fascinating
year or two.
because our guest next week, I mean next month, is a very close friend for many, many years of Ram Dass.
Ah, wonderful,
Last month
wonderful.
with Phil Goldberg,
Perfect. Yeah.
Paramahansa Yogananda.
Exactly. And it was Ram Dass. I had read that first. It was probably another year or two until I read Autobiography of a Yogi, which I read every few years. But as you know, they're both sacred texts. And Autobiography of a Yogi, it doesn't matter if it was printed yesterday or 50 years ago, it is still a sacred text. And so those definitely began my journey into not only my grandmother had brought in that Zen or Buddhism into, wow, there is this whole other, uh, area of God that I'm yearning for now. So that was where that started when I was 19 or 20. Um, and, uh, um, and then I was about 28 which is that first Saturn return we talked about with Brad Laughlin.
Yes.
And I remembered this at your house, actually, Marge, during that time last month, um, where I had met a chiropractor who was a healer. And this was 1983, wasn't really something that was on every corner, as they say, right? Yoga and healing was not on every corner in 1983. And he began to introduce me to some different modalities that I may have heard about and sort of teach me. And one of those being kinesiology. So, and then that really segued that for me that that love of healing, nutrition, the earth, just connecting it all. So that was that pivotal point for me at about 28. But other than that, it's my two daughters. They've brought such joy, and then it's also been wow. As a single mom, it's had its
Well,
moments,
you
and
went through a divorce and
I
your
went through,
first marriage
yes, yes,
dissolved.
yes, yes. And
And
Marge,
in the period then of the second act of your life, you
mhm,
met your second husband, the person who would
yes,
become your second husband.
yes,
So this question about um, it's why divorces happen or why
mhm,
dissolve
mhm,
happens, dissolution, I love
mhm,
that,
mhm,
dissolution of marriage happens. Why? Maybe you came together for a sacred time and a sacred purpose, and the integration of that part of your own self, the birth of your children with your first husband,
mhm.
and yet that there came a time for both the first husband and the second husband when a dissolve happened again.
Yes, yes. And I've seen that so clearly in later years that once one partner begins to sort of bring consciousness up, right? And the other one isn't joined in, that's when this separation, then the dissolution. That became very clear for me after my second divorce. But it wasn't clear the first time. And I just wanted to say that back then, when I was the single mom, women, it was a different time for women in business. Not as many opportunities. I traveled a lot. These days, if you travel, you can say, well, I can't travel during this period because it's my daughter's birthday. Well, back then, when I started working, it was $2 an hour was minimum wage. You can't really raise kids on $2 an hour. So I really had to work myself up. I was in the retail business. I became a buyer merchant, and so forth, but it took a while. And so there was a
Very
lot of that motherhood, early motherhood that I missed because I was traveling, working, and it's been uh, like I said, a joy. My kids, and I have 7 grandkids and 4 great grandkids. That it's but I've been able to enjoy some of the grandkids and the great grandkids more than I could some of my kids in their earlier years. So for that, that's just how my life has unfolded. And but I'm proud of my daughters, and they both, Marge, they both work in male dominated businesses. They're both directors. My daughter Amy in California is a director for a transportation company, women in trucking, they say. And Jennifer here, she works for Walmart. She's a director in tech and technology, and they have their organization, or they have parts of the organization, Women in Tech. So I said, isn't that interesting? I have women in trucking and women in tech. And but anyways, and I'm really proud that they've been able to succeed in those environments, which are still, they're better than they were when you and I were started. So,
And one thing that you said as you sent me some information ahead of time was that there comes a time when your human self has to begin to define itself as your higher self.
hmm
It's not just about roles you
hmm
play, but it's about vision and mission. And this picture represents something someone gave to you.
hmm
And you put it up in your workspace and you looked at it every day.
I did. I did. I did. I did. Well, I would say up until this point in my life, I was aware that and I was told by a psychic at one time that God's going to put you where he wants when he wants. And he was very adamant about it. Don't ask me anymore. He said, career or otherwise, God's going to put you, and he was pounded the table. God's going to put you where he wants, when he wants, and you have nothing to say about it. I
Now,
said, okay. Yes. Yeah.
that picture, the green smiley face,
Uh-huh.
in August of 2006 ends
Mhm.
up in a
Mhm.
magazine, a
It did. It
well-known
did.
magazine, Fortune magazine,
Yeah.
with a picture of the CEO on the front. And the second page of the article
Yeah. Yeah. As you open
has
it up,
the
as you open
green
up
machine with your green smiley face.
Exactly. As you opened it up, much to my surprise, when I opened it up, there was the green smiley face on the left side and Lee Scott on the right side. And this really goes into what I say are gifts of this divine knowing that I've always had. And I've always been aware that I really don't do anything. All I'm just doing God's work. I am just the person. I am just the vessel that's bringing it forth. And and how that happened is I had a download from Spirit. I had read Paul Hawkins' book, by the way, Ecology of Commerce, if anybody's familiar with that. And I became really aware of um, the pesticide use on cotton. And I thought, well, I'm a buyer. I work for Sam's Club and a division of Walmart, and about half my purchases are cotton. And at that point, I did quick math. I realized I was part of a large problem. And then I got this download that I should buy organic cotton. Well, that was pretty radical because the only organic cotton, this is 2003, I believe, it was Patagonia Nike. It was just very small, but that didn't matter because I started sourcing it. And within a week of me starting to source it, Marge, which wasn't easy to do, for believed it, I believed organics should be affordable for everyone. It shouldn't be something that is about your status. Um, and I was within a week, a few days, I was contacted by a current supplier and asked if I'd be interested in organic cotton. They were starting a farm. And I said, how soon can you be here? I bought it. Yes, I bought it. And so this, and I bought this, and then I made a trip to California. I was with my daughter, and we were shopping at Walmart, by the way. And I said, well, Amy, you didn't buy organic milk. She says, Mom, we can't afford it. And then I realized that I had already bought the cotton, this model, this LOHAS model, Lifestyles of Health and Sustainability, I believe it was, foremost organization, may still be. The consumer pathway, number one is milk, number two, food. And there are about six different ways the consumer, takes the pathway to organics. Well, the last one was home and textiles. So I just thought, wow, when this merchandise comes in, it is priced for everyone. And it was a yoga set, by the way. Back then, there were not yoga centers on every corner. And so what happened was this clearly was divinely guided. I placed the order about 6 months, 5 months ahead of the company, announcing a year-long initiative, which I didn't even know about. So then another 6 months into the initiative, which I was not involved in, um, the my EVP mentioned to Walmart, hey, Coral's already doing this. The merchandise just came in. And they sent somebody over from Walmart real quick. I chatted with them, and we got it put back on the agenda for the initiative as sustainable products. And the merchandise sold, as I've shared with you. And I do want to say that there was this collaboration. You talk about it a lot, this new model. Well, we collaborated. I collaborated with Nike and Patagonia to make this happen, learned from them. And it was really something that it resonated with the customers. People called me crazy, by the way. They actually called me Miss Organic. And that picture you showed, the happy face, that was given to me early 2000. This is the original one, by the way. It still has the sticker. Somebody handed this to me when I started talking about taking Walmart organic. Walmart, if people don't know, it's the Spark now, by the way, is their logo. The yellow happy face was the logo. Someone had this printed up for me, put it in plastic. I hung it up in my pod, and I looked at this every morning. And well, people called me Miss Organic, and they thought I was crazy. And so yeah, that it did end up in Fortune magazine. But I want to go back to this LOHAS model. At the time when this happened, and the merchandise sold very well, which I think you said you were going to read that. Um, Bucky Fuller, I thought of his quote, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. So the moment that yoga set sold at Sam's Club in a mass retailer for a price parity level, making it affordable, that broke that model I spoke about. I have the model around here somewhere. So this was something that was so orchestrated by the divine, foretold by an enlightened master to his students several years before. I didn't know that till a couple of years later. That in order for the globe, for a larger, to have a larger presence of environmental sustainability in the earth, in the food, Walmart would have to get involved. So it was actually
Interesting.
foretold
That
by
enlightened master that you referred to was
yes,
the master that Phil Goldberg worked with.
yes, yes, yes. I won't mention the name. That the conversation was mentioned to me that it was private, and from this person, Phil probably knows. But so yeah, this all came together that it was clearly I knew um, while all of this was happening over that year and a half, 2 years, that this was being orchestrated from above. This was nothing that I was doing. Things fell into place. The minute that the merchandise came in, that's when Walmart found out about it. It got on the radar of the CEO. He got the selling every day. And it was, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. March, were you going to read that little piece? I was going to read
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
study.
It's fascinating because you mentioned Buckminster Fuller, and he was the same person that came to UMass when I was there,
Mm,
and totally was renovating the entire ed school, teaching people how experiential learning works. And all the doctoral students would sit behind the one-way mirrors to watch him working with first graders, second graders, third graders, right up those steps, and how he worked with them very different, not teaching them theory, but letting them learn by their own experience. And I, another spark of light. And why are we talking so much about these imprints? Because they come as sparks of light.
mm,
And it was really fascinating in this Fortune magazine. Uh, and where it's talking about saving the planet as part of the vision. And in that article, what they're talking about is that that strategy, their previous strategy, was abandoned. And yet in 2004, when Sam's Club buyer Coral Rose purchased organic cotton yoga outfits, they were wildly successful with customers. Customers were interested in what was affordable, sustainable products, became a critical point in the campaign's product sustainability strategy.
mm,
And it's has demonstrated, as one of their people said, its sustainability. Customers should not have to pay more for products that are better in their families, for their families or the environment. And and I remember reading that when the author of this article in Fortune, Mark Marc Gunter, Gunther, was trying to find you. You were no longer employed there. You had gone, and he searched you down. And then he said, in every circumstance like this, there is a spark of light. That is the phrase that I circled. And that spark of light is the hidden light. That is the Hanukkah candle.
mm-hmm,
That is that energy of radiance that sparks the hidden light. And then it manifests in different ways: when, who, how, what, uh, as it intersections in time. And Advent is about that. Hanukkah is about that. The 12 days of Christmas is about that. And we are in the season of the holy birth, the birth of the holy child, a new birth, a new beginning. And, you know, uh, amazing people show up
Mm-hmm.
to become carriers of that light. And the CEO that was on the front page of this Fortune magazine is an example of how a spark of light can spark that in a person who has the power to bring it into the vastness. And that included worldwide.
Yes, yes, yes. The interestingly enough, during that time period, someone at a Walmart meeting, I was told about it. A senior executive called me a spark, and someone came back from the meeting and said, "Well, so and so said you were a spark," and I said, I actually, Marge, was sort of taken aback. Well, what does that mean? And then fast forward to about 10 years ago, my current company, I was with the CEO and we were looking at a strategy for sustainability and with Feeding America. And she looked at me and she said, "Well, you're just a spark." And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? She's about the third person that said that. And thank you for reading that, Marge. And that there is a study that was done by University of Arkansas in South Carolina, very similar to what you read. But the first time I really became present to this word nascent, consumers were interested in affordable, sustainable products became a critical point in the company's nascent product sustainability strategy. So I looked up the word nascent. It means coming into existence, emerging. I thought, wow. Um, and that is also part of my human design too, which I find interesting. So, but and the other thing is, so many people, and it's okay. I believe I mentioned that I took the wisdom course at one time at one of Werner Earhart's courses, and the wisdom course, and there was the 7 stages of mastery. And the final stage I thought was so interesting that you create something so large in the world that they won't remember you or be grateful, and you will not get the credit. And I said to myself, this was several years before I moved back to Arkansas. I've lived here twice, but this was several years before that happened. I thought, wow, isn't that incredible? And I think it's beautiful because I shouldn't get the credit. It was so divinely orchestrated, like a perfect symphony. I mean, just the most beautiful symphony that you can imagine is how what you just read, how that all happened. And it was only a God job. I know that you use that term as well.
These souls show up in every generation. So it's really fascinating in every generation. And these sparks of light, they're often concealed, they're unassuming, and virtually unknown.
Mhm.
Very,
That's a
very fascinating
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
by the time that article was written, you had even gone to a different company.
Yeah, I had my own company, Eco Innovations, and I formed it after Walmart made their announcement, that Fortune magazine. There was actually an announcement before that. A lot of people contacted me wanting to know how they can do what we did and bring a product sustainability strategy to their companies. I had my own business. I worked with international clients, Adidas, training product teams. I did a lot of educating as well as writing articles for magazines. It was a wonderful time. 2008, that sort of came to an end. I went through a healing, as you know. I moved back to California. Great doctors in California, and shortly after met you at Unity of Tustin, and so yeah, so that was when the business started slowing down, and I needed to take time to heal.
Uh,
Um,
that brings us to Unity of Tustin. And this
yeah.
is when we co-taught a segment of Your Soul's Invisible Codes together. And it was on Site 4 in the garden.
Hmm.
And and that's where divine imagination comes from the invisible and moves into the visible with action and with understanding. And that was what you chose when I said, I've taught this course now for several years.
Hmm.
Next time it's going to be taught by you. And I want you to volunteer for the site you want to teach.
And I
And
ran
do
out.
so.
I ran out to the gardens, and I didn't know which site it was. And it was the site with Kuan Yin, Our Lady, Lady of Guadalupe's near there as well. There's the beautiful solar calendar, um, with the Om Center in the middle, which I'd never noticed. I used to eat lunch there at the bench. And oh, it was Site 4. And then as I prepared for co-teaching with you, I was like, when I came back into the room and I said Site 4, you said, it's perfect. Well, when I started preparing, I was like, oh my goodness, I still refer to this. This is such a huge part of my journey, even up until then. And I think we called it surrendering to the divine dance. It's the higher states of consciousness where everything comes together, the light, and there's no separation. We move into oneness at that point.
And I said something to you that you didn't understand, and it shocked you actually. I said, Carl, you are a bodhisattva.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
said, what's that?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And then Kuan Yin is right there at Site 4. And what I loved about co-teaching that with you, Marge, is we brought in that East meets West, which was one of my favorite courses with you and David over the years, and Swami Brahmananda. And we brought in the Bible, Sri Aurobindo, Charles Fillmore, the 12 Powers of Man, the Bhagavad Gita, just all in this heart-centeredness, going out into the world in action. And I also recognize when I was at the world's largest retailer, that there was that divine dance and that tapping into what Sri Aurobindo calls those higher states of divine mind and bringing in, being that vessel. So
Another example of this worldwide impact that you did not foresee was this magazine on the front page of a newspaper in India. Tell us a little bit about that.
sure. In 2018, I was in Rishikesh. I was on that trip, one of the trips with Michael Ward. We did two trips where we met up. He was not there at that event, but that was the Beatles' 50th anniversary in Rishikesh. And along the way, I've learned transcendental meditation, along with I meditated before that, and about 25 years ago, learned transcendental meditation. June Sinclair, who you know as well, lives in Rishikesh. She lives in Mysore as well now. And the group from Transcendental Meditation wanted to interview Prudence Farrow. That's her in the middle, dear Prudence. And for this 50th anniversary, she wasn't going to be there. This was in January. But they wanted to record her to show at the festivities. And she did an interview and with the TM organization, and somebody in the hotel must have called the Indian press because they were very quiet when they came in, and there were only about five of us in the room during this taping. I looked behind me and there was the entire press corps. And as soon as she finished the TM interview, they asked if they could interview her. She graciously gave them an interview, which was so interesting because they asked, TM Movement didn't ask her about the Beatles, the press did. So it was wonderful to hear how she became the sort of the teacher of George and John. They were late coming to it was an intensive. They were actually training to be TM teachers, and Maharishi had her catch them up to speed because they were a week late. So that's how she became close to them. And so afterwards, June and I were going to take our picture with Prudence, and it turned into what you see. This just happened. I said, June, let's take our picture with Prudence. And we stood there, and all of a sudden, the press surrounded us. And I didn't even know it ended up in the paper. The little hotel I was staying at showed it to me the next day. So, and I couldn't read it. I said, what does it say?
It's amazing. There will be nothing else the Holy Spirit will not arrange for you without your effort. That's from A Course in Miracles,
Yeah,
part of the promise. Once you have accepted
yeah.
God's plan, it's not your human plan, it's not the goals you set for yourself. It's you say yes to God's plan. And in some way, you've done this in your entire life. And so the last picture in the email says, all life is yoga.
The famous quote from Sri Aurobindo. That photo was taken by Michael, by the way. We visited Oro Valley. It's sort of outside of Hardwar and Rishikesh, if anybody has been there. And I saw that around the grounds there. And I put this quote as well a lot on social media because it so has that frequency of what yoga is, union with your inner, but yoga is everything. Sri Aurobindo's quote, I'll read it. All life is yoga. Whatever one's circumstances, actions, station in life, and relationships, the essential aspect is to consistently see and remember the divine at all times. When one observes the myriad individual forms, they must be seen as forms of the divine. It's all
There,
God. I'm adding that in there. The individual, the universal, and the transcendent are all the divine. So that's something that's very near and dear to me, and uh, it's I haven't been to Pondicherry yet, but it will be on the agenda if I go back to India. So
oh, wow. This we've gone a little bit over time for the first segment, and let's do the shift and open it after I pause for a moment to simply say, we invite you to support this platform. All of these unusual interviews going higher and deeper with your own love donation, especially in this time of giving that is the time of the holidays. Um, I, I, we have no outside supporters. It is uh, up to the givers to support the platform. And so I invite you to become one of those givers, even a significant giver at this year in time. And what a beautiful way to celebrate love, to celebrate your life, to celebrate the holidays, all of the way through the month of December, lighting the four candles in a unity setting. Hanukkah, lighting the eight candles with the servant candle in the middle, lighting all of the ways that you light up your life and light up the world. And if you're not on the mailing list and you would like to be or invite someone to be, please click on the link that says join our tribe. It's not about an ask for money, it's about where you can sign up for the mailing list. So click that link to get on the mailing list where you will receive our monthly announcements. We only do one call a month at this point in time. And how beautiful it is to move for a few minutes into what I call the oh my God moments, moments where you said, oh my God, that happened to me, or something similar to that. Of course, it's okay also to ask questions, but my guess is that you have the answers within you. And um, so if you raise your hand, you can do that either by waving your hand like this, or you can do it by clicking on the button at the bottom where you can move into raising a hand. And Ross Hostetter has his hand raised. So Ross, come in. Garth, can you bring Ross in?
Coral, I just want to say what a privilege it is to meet you through Marj. Yeah, I just want to note that there's uh, just a couple things just to note. First of all, I kind of know the part of the world that you're living in. We just looked at a regenerative agriculture deal just outside of Bentonville.
Oh,
I will have to confess to have done the hog call in Fayetteville at the stadium. And the White River is a fishing spot for my son and I, kind of a beautiful sacred spot for our family that we go to every few years. So I kind of know the part of the world that you're in. And you are a unique point of light in that part of the world. I would I would probably imagine, who would imagine, I don't know, we're in Northwest Arkansas, finding somebody, like you. Uh, the uh, the thing that I just want to note and maybe just call into our collective attention is the sort of stuff that you and I and Marge and other people have been doing over the years is a very unique path in spirituality. It's far, far different from the monastic path. It really, and all the people that you've been talking about, Sri Aurobindo and Ram Dass and all of that that went on that path. What we're doing is different, and I share that with you. I'm a householder. Mary and I have three kids. I can just imagine being a single mom with two daughters. You and working. You have no free time, none in that setup. I know that for a fact. And these possibilities that arise when you're working for, a big corporation like Walmart. I did the same thing in the legal system down in Dallas when I was a trial lawyer down there with a spark created by a little peripatetic mystic called Peace Pilgrim, of which Marge has a little brochure, in her basement downstairs. And based on her teachings, we decided we were going to become peacemakers. And so we started a mediation movement that just exploded. The time was right, the zeitgeist was right, and it went from nothing to everything, in a 5 year period of time. And we trained 1,000 lawyers on how to become peacemakers and started this whole new way of practicing law and everything. So these things arise. Um, and then all of the influences that we have sitting in the West, it's a metabolization of both the Eastern and Western, starting from I've done my thing in Bible believing evangelicalism and all of that, working through up all these different levels. And I don't think very many mystics in history have done what we are doing. Okay, with all of these influences, this great confluence of things happening from east and west. My wife just got back from Rishikesh, and so I just kind of want to raise that as a topic of conversation, that this could be a new kind of a way, a new kind of a way that is not so much state-based and meditation-based, although we do that kind of thing, not, you know, um, working just daily in the grist of the world and meeting the grist of the world with consciousness, all of that. And so it's a pile of work, isn't it, Coral? It really is. And I just kind of want to raise that as a question as to whether or not you think that what we've been doing all these years, working and having this mystical, interior mystical life and having these possibilities arise and everything might be a new way of proceeding. That is, of course, being memorialized here on this call with what Marge is doing, but just kind of want to raise that as a topic of conversation, whether this might be a way.
Well,
But
it's a pleasure to meet you, Ross. I've heard so much about you and Mary
yeah,
um, through Marge. It's for, my experience through all of this is that I've just been going where I'm guided to go. And for instance, my job at Walmart um, just ended up there. That was a seed planted in the 1980s. Uh, a, a longer story, but when Sam Walton offered me a job, and it was in the 80s, and just bringing that, but it is very lonely at times.
right about that. It is lonely.
Here in Fayetteville, and I have a great community of friends, but it still can be, very lonely in the spiritual sense. So,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
yeah,
very, very familiar with that. Yeah,
yeah.
me in the spiritual sense. So we need to just kind of hang out and support each other because it
Hmm.
is. It's not like, we're trying to become great spiritual teachers or something like that, although we might, it's not that that's not necessarily foreclosed. And I'm very curious. I think we're probably likely the same age. I was born in 1954,
Hmm.
also a Virgo. And you and I are getting into what Marge would call the fourth act, where kind of all of these different things that we've metabolized over the years and had to metabolize, partners, husbands, work, children,
Hmm.
uh, Eastern meditation techniques, Western spirituality. Are they cohering for you into something, tangible or uh, teachable?
Yeah, well,
Do you have like a calling in this fourth act to put something out into the world? And if you do, I just want to support you in it.
it's still coming together. Part of what I've been doing the last 8 years is I had a healing through Yoga Nidra, the practice of Yoga Nidra,
Yes.
during my first teacher training. And I was called very much to teach it. I did some training when I was in Rishikesh at one point, and I've just been letting that unfold. And when I started teaching the Yoga Nidra here, there weren't a lot of places, even in the US, teaching it at the time. And I've added sound to that, and it's unfolded into what I call a remembrance. And it's remembering ourselves home. And that's just something I started calling the practice. And I'm teaching once a month at the local yoga studio here. It's a beautiful uh, sanctuary to teach at. And that's, I'm just allowing that to unfold and see. where that goes.
Great, great.
All right. We have one more person with their hand up, and I'm thinking I may know who that is. Garth, bring in our telephone caller. All right. Hello, hello, my beloved friend.
Hi, Marj. Yes, it's Laurel. So, I want to share some aha moments that I had during this. I just want to tell you how beautiful it is to be lighting with you every night. I really do feel that connection, and so I just wanted to say that. But I also, by the way, am a Virgo, and the Hebrew month that I was born in, because the Hebrew months are the Hebrew calendar is different. It follows the moon. That's why we light the Hanukkah candles at sundown the previous night, because the day actually goes from sundown to sundown. So the Hebrew month that I was born in is the name of that month is called Elul, and Elul is an acronym for the words Ani Ledodi, Bedodi Li, which means I am to my beloved as my beloved is to me, which comes from the Song of Songs. And so I was thinking, listening to you, Coral, about how, God is your beloved. And I don't know the exact date that you were born as a Virgo, but I'm thinking that it's very possible. My birth date was September the 4th, but it's very possible that, and also kind of probable, that you may also be, would have been, your date would correlate with Elul, the month of Elul, which represents that connection to the beloved, that God is your beloved. So that was one aha moment that there was, and then the other aha moment that was pretty unbelievable was that back in it was, I think it was 2023. And it was the call for the month of December for Called by Love back in 2023. And we had a break. We hadn't met for a while. Marj had moved, and there was a break. And so the email had gone out it was December 18th. And I remember that it was the 18th because 18 represents Chai, which is life. The Hebrew letters are also numbers. So I remember that it was December 18th. And during that time, I had talked about the hidden light, the Or Haganuz, that was hidden away after the 36 hours at the time of creation, when Adam could see from one end of the universe to the other, and then that light, that light was hidden away into the menorah, into the candles of the Hanukkah menorah, and we have access to that during the time of the lighting, and so the hidden becomes revealed to us. We gain more clarity, more purpose, more about our mission for ourselves, for our own inner light, the peace of God that lives within us as our soul, the flame of God, that candle, that's our soul. And I had shared during that call in 2023 that when Hanukkah had just been over, and during one of the times that I was gazing into the candle, the quote came to me: once you have accepted God's plan as the one purpose of your life, there will be nothing else that the Holy Spirit will not arrange for you without your effort. And Marge mentioned that just towards the end when she was speaking, that comes from Course in Miracles, and it hung over the doorway of the sanctuary at Unity. So every time I would leave, you could look up and you could see that, and it actually was message. Usually is future time. The Orahaga news is it was hidden away for the future time, and so for that to come down while I was gazing was so significant to me. So that was another aha moment. And so I also wanted to say that with the number 36, which is double Chai, my Hebrew name actually is Chaya, which is the Hebrew version of Chai, and that's 18. And double Chai is 36. And when I was 36, that was the year is in 1995. And Marj did a bas mitzvah for me. She was my rabbi for bas mitzvah when I was double chai because I had really wanted to have one. And she had a talis, which is a prayer shawl, and the head covering. She already had purchased them. And so how beautiful it was that she got to use them as my rabbi on that day. And so the number 36, which also is for the 36 Lamed Vav Stakim, the hidden righteous ones that are in the world in every generation. Plus, when we light the Hanukkah candles, it adds up to 36. The first night we light one, then the second night we add two, and then 3 and 4, and so on. And so if you add them all up over the 8 days of Hanukkah, you have 36 candles. So the shamash, which is a servant candle, that's the candle that you light, and that it kindles the other candles. It serves them. We don't count that. That's the servant candle. So it's separate from the 36. So those are just aha moments that I had just listening to you, Coral, and it was just so beautiful, everything that you shared, and it just really did take me back to so many of the gatherings that we had with Called by Love, where our mission, our purpose, what we were here for, what those glimpses of the hidden light that comes in and that guides us, that Marj is so gifted, how she is able to help people identify what that mission and what that purpose is. And I've just seen her do it for decades, and it's just to bring those stories, their connections, how we all happen to be, how we all arrived at Unity, and how we all arrived at Called by Love, and at the time that we did, and how we knew each other at various times. This is the work of God guiding our steps, bringing us where we need to be, exactly when we need to be there. So that was a really incredible thing. I wanted to also say that the name of the article that was in the Unity magazine that I had mentioned back to Marj after she emailed me about a different article that had to do with Hanukkah, but I was remembering the Unity publication. It was from 1999, and the cover of the Unity magazine for that edition was Sacred Writings, the Wisdom of Our Words. And the specific article was The Hebrew Alphabet, A Mystical Journey by Edward Hoffman. And the Hebrew alphabet is known as letters of light. So that was just a beautiful connection too. There's a sefer called the Sefer Yetzirah, which is the Book of Creation. It's a Kabbalistic Jewish mysticism text. It's one of the oldest ones, and it says in there 22 foundation letters. God ordained them. He created with them everything, and everything to be created in the future. So it says that God looked into the Torah And from there, then he created. So he created the universe with scribe, with script, and with scroll. So I just wanted to acknowledge that article, what the name of it was, and who had written it. And then I also wanted to say thank you, Marge, so much for sharing that paragraph that I had sent you. That was from the article, "What's Light Got to Do with It?" And I just wanted to say that it was Rabbi Dov Bar Pinson who wrote that article, "What's Light Got to Do with It?" And I just also, because I want other people to have a chance to talk, just want to say how just incredible it is weaving together all of the traditions that we have, all of the doorways and the pathways that all lead us to the same space, that oneness and that connectedness of God within us, and that through the lighting of the Hanukkah candles, that when we draw down the Or HaGanuz, the hidden light, it connects directly to that light within us that's in our soul, that the clarity, the healing, and the peace that brings to us, it's when you gaze at those lights, that story that comes, that message that comes through is so significant. And so I just want to invite everyone, if I may, just to light a candle during this sacred time and just gaze at it. And as you gaze, that flame of God will connect to that flame that's within you, and see if you get a message and what may be hidden that comes to be revealed that could guide you on your very sacred and holy path during this very sacred and holy time. And thank you
Thank
for the
you.
gift of being able to share, Marge. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Coral. It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful to hear your voice. I'm so grateful for technology and grateful for Garth that he helps put it all together. And we're out of time, but I do want to let you know that next month in January, our spotlight guest is going to be Ramadan John Welshans. And he was a meditation teacher every few months both at Unity of Tustin and with some Orange County doctors. So I'm so looking forward to him coming. He was a very, very dear friend for many, many years of Ram Dass, and used to spend time with him whenever his caretaker took a vacation. They would call on John to come and be with him. And so wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stories to share. And his one of his books on grief and healing from grief was pivotal in my journey at one point in time when I was going through a very deep grief experience. So, one heart, one soul, and one love. And that will be John Welshans, the third Wednesday of the month, which is going to be on January 21st. Um, so I look forward to seeing you all next month, and so much love and so many blessings and happy holidays. And may the light be with you in all that you do. And may you be a radiant transmitter of light to the world. And so it is. We're so grateful.